Okay, so we'll probably put this at the start of the episode, but basically there's been a very divisive issue in our fantasy football league. Jordan and I are in the same one, and the NFL is always innovating. They're always changing rules, whether it be you can challenge pass interference, and then we all found it annoying and they took it away. They added in an extra game recently. The NFL is always trying to make the league better, more competitive, and easier to watch for fans. And I think we should have the same mentality with fantasy football. So my pitch to our league was that we get rid of classic waiver priority, where the person who hasn't picked up a player in the longest amount of time gets first choice on waivers. And, it's not the worst system, but I think we can do better. So what I pitched was a budget system where we have a certain amount of money allocated for free agents throughout the season, for waiver pickups, and whoever is willing to bid the most for the player gets him. And there's risks and stakes and skill involved. Now, our fantasy football league was very divided over this. We ended up going 6 votes to 6 on the change, and the compromise for settling this was that we would do a coin flip.
As men do.
As
we do in football.
There were some other ideas pitched, like, I don't even know. I think Dan Hansen was like, there should be like a streak race downtown Montreal, which seemed like a long way for us to go from Montreal to settle a fantasy football issue. But yeah, we decided on a best of 5 coin flip, which still seems a tad unnecessary, maybe a tad lengthy, but we're gonna do that now.
All right.
And I think you should do it because since I pitched,
I can't flip a coin.
Oh God. Okay.
I'm hopeless.
Yeah, we might have to cut this too because I'm not necessarily an expert either. I tried to pawn it off on you. Okay, coin flip 1.
And we're off.
You gonna get it?
Yeah.
Drum roll. Heads. Okay, heads means keeping the classic waiver priority. Flip 2. See if I can do a better job. This is going to take a long time. Heads again. So it looks like classic waiver priority is going to stay, barring 3 straight tails.
Heads again.
All right. Well, that stinks and was also super unclimactic. So I guess our league is going to keep its old dinosaur era rules regarding waiver pickups.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Anyway. Hey, welcome to a new episode of the Practice Squad. I'm Henry Standage, joined by Jordan Laroche at the Locker Room in the Bottom Line on 22 Front Street, Toronto, Ontario, next to the Canadian Hockey Hall of Fame. And Jordan, how was your weekend?
Not too bad. I had a fun little trip out to Ottawa this weekend, our nation's capital, for a little hockey convention. You saw the video, me getting lit up by Zach Bell, who's just ridiculous at what he can do with the puck.
Yeah, it looked like when you see videos of these professional NBA dunkers who aren't actually good at basketball but can do ridiculous dunks. Yeah. Kind of looked like he was the hockey version of that.
Pretty
much.
I've
never seen these moves.
Yeah, like he full lacrosse moves on his stick, like batting the puck out of midair. I mean, as a goalie, there's not much you can really do in that situation. So, no, it was a lot of fun. Zach Bell's a really nice guy, but no, I had a great trip out there. How was your weekend?
It was cool. My dad and my brother came up for the weekend, checked out my new place in Toronto. My brother at the moment thinks he wants to be an artist, so they just toured art galleries, and like he was super hyped up that there was a street called Graffiti Alley near my house. So
okay.
That definitely appeals to like 11-year-olds, anything with like graffiti in the title. So yeah, it was a good weekend. But yeah, today we're doing week 2, preseason winners and losers to start, and then we're going to do some over-unders right after, some of our favorite bets, whether they be overs, whether they be unders, going into the season, now that we have a pretty good idea about what most of the teams look like. And then to finish, we're going to talk some Hard Knocks, episode 2, a much improved episode from the premiere, but we'll touch more on that later.
Yeah, just a little disclaimer about the Hard Knocks. We are technically a little bit behind, but because we are in Canada. And we have to rely on DAZN to upload the episode whenever they get the chance. But episode 3, we haven't seen episode 3 yet. It hasn't been released on DAZN yet, so just want to throw that out there.
True. We should ask them for screeners.
I know. Geez, who do you think we are?
Yeah. But yeah, you want to hop into winners and losers?
Yeah. You want to lead this one off?
Sure. So my first winner is people who had other things to do because there was not a lot of starters this week. And that's good because it forces some creativity for this segment. But I'm on YouTube and I'm watching all these extended highlight packages. And you kind of realize, first quarter, first series, and none of the big guns are playing really. I think Josh Allen played.
Yep.
And that was one of really the only stars we had.
But even then, Josh Allen only played one drive.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're seeing that a lot more. And I think a big part of that is just the kind of the emergence of joint practices. I mean, you can get very similar training in a game situation, really, against essentially a top level competition. So I like to see that. I like to see that change, but at the same time, it's a preseason game. You want the best players out there, which is kind of sad to see.
Yeah, it used to be that the fourth week of the preseason would be the dud week, and now teams are getting very creative. It's much more subjective, team to team, how they play it. I'm pretty sure the Rams just do no starters the whole time. Some teams, exactly. The Jets this week had joint practices versus the Falcons. Felt good about them, and Salah rested, I think, 16 of 17 starters or something. So it's cool. It's good that they're being innovative, but it makes it a little, more difficult as a fan to know what games to tune into.
It's always cool to see the rookies. That's the only real positive, I guess, from not seeing the big guys in preseason, because we get to see these guys kind of make a name for themselves a little bit and kind of see what we get to expect.
They're kind of like the big dogs out there. Some of these first, second round rookies when it's second, third string guys.
But I'll move on to my first loser actually, Antonio Gibson. He's in the doghouse at the Washington Commanders camp right now. He's been relegated to the special teams unit after a 1,300-yard season and double-digit touchdowns, which is kind of tough to see. But I think I expected a lot from Gibson coming into this year, but to kind of see him mainly just on the kick return and punt return was it's a little concerning. But what kind of takes on that?
Yeah, so last year in fantasy, I took Gibson in the first round, and I think his life has just gone downhill ever since. He was playing with a fractured leg last season after a super promising rookie campaign. J.D. McKissick started getting a decent amount of his action and basically took over the receiving game in that backfield, even though Antonio Gibson was a receiver in college. So there's really no need for him not to be a three-down back. And then, more fumble issues going into this preseason. And, I mean, if your competition's, a fairly early pick from Alabama and it's a running back, he's probably going to be a half-decent player, and you're going to have to sharpen up.
Yeah, and I was looking at, he had 3 receptions for 37 yards. And, I mean, if you kind of watch them, he had some good runs after the catch, too. So you kind of see that receiver in him a little bit. But again, just not really what we want to see from a guy who really had a lot of promise coming into this year. Mm-hmm. You want to go to yours?
Yeah, I'll go. I also had Antonio Gibson as a loser, but
sorry about that.
All good. My first loser is the Giants. So not only are the Giants, there's been a lot of negative stuff out of training camp, and even though I think everyone liked their GM and coaching hires, they're making it really hard to believe in them because Kenny Golladay has failed to get going, and now 6 of their rookies are currently injured, including the 5th overall pick, Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Got hit on a cut block, and looks like he's a sprained MCL, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to miss a decent amount of time, I believe, too.
Yeah, and just having 6 rookies injured, especially when the veterans on your team aren't performing, is just a huge bummer. And I wanted just to bring up that the Giants, like I said, not making it easy to believe in them, which they have the easiest schedule in the league. So they could be a team that you could look at for taking the over if they had a really strong training camp in preseason, but that hasn't happened. And I want to point out as well that since MetLife Stadium, which hosts the Jets and the Giants in 2010, the Jets and Giants have had a ton of injuries compared to the league average, and a lot of people believe that's because of the turf they use.
Yeah,
players are constantly tearing their ACLs on this turf.
I've seen that kind of floating around a little bit. I mean, it'd be one hell of a conspiracy theory, but I mean, very, very well plausible though.
One playoff game hosted at the stadium, since it opened 12 years ago, and it hosts 2 teams. So
Good
I'm
Lord.
just saying, like, maybe look into replacing the turf because so far the MetLife Stadium has not had a good history. And
no, and I mean, just I think at that point you just want to burn the stadium. I mean,
yeah, it's been a horrible
get rid of
first 12 years.
Just get rid of any remembrance of the Giants and the Jets playing there. It's just a dumpster fire.
There was actually some news going around on the internet, and it was a screenshot of the Giants trainer after all these injuries to the rookies that came out. And it was this 98-year-old man called John Johnson. Said he'd been their trainer since 1948. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. They have a 98-year-old person in charge of basically like medical.
Yeah.
But this was awesome. This was fake news. And
Okay.
John Johnson actually passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, that's a little tough, but MetLife Stadium. How's the actual stadium though? I've never actually been.
I went last year, and I mean, I had a pretty good time. It's in like the ugliest part of New York, really. Like it's in New
Right.
Jersey, and there's nothing nice looking anywhere near it. Had a good time at the game, and nobody tore their ACL on the turf. But yeah, you might expect a little bit more from a $1.6 billion stadium built within 15 years. But yeah,
All right.
MetLife Stadium's also a loser, I guess.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I'm gonna move on to my last. I had 2 losers and a winner here. Let's go over one. And I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Bills running game. I feel like last year that was really just one thing that the Bills. I wouldn't say the running game was bad by any means. It just wasn't really a carrying factor for them. And they had to rely on Josh Allen, I think, a lot more than they really wanted to. But Devils Singletary started out the game with 4 carries and 39 yards. He kind of split the first 2 drives before Zach Moss and James Cook went in. And Moss 2 for 2 at the goal line, 2 touchdowns, 4 rushes for 19 yards, and Cook for 4 rushes for 38 yards. And what's kind of coming out of Bills camp right now is that there's going to be a 3-man running back committee. And for fantasy owners, that might kind of sway you away from Bills running backs. But at the same time, you have 3 guys who can kind of stretch out and make their own plays. You have Singletary being the lead guy, Zach Moss being able to punch it in for those short downage plays, or even punching it into the end zone. And James Cook has kind of become more of that receiving option for them as well out of the backfield. So for the Bills, there's just another layer to that offense that, you already have Stephon Diggs there. Gabriel Davis had a breakout year in the playoffs and it looked pretty good this week as well. So a lot of exciting things are happening in Buffalo.
Yeah, and James Cook, they took, I think, 3rd round in the draft.
Yeah.
A brother of Dalvin Cook. And yeah, he's known, I think, more as a receiving type back, but he looked really good in the clips of him running.
Yeah, he's looks a little taller than Dalvin, but he just kind of just powers through the same way.
Yeah. No, that's a scary idea of them being able to run more play action for Josh Allen and teams having to respect it.
Who Josh Allen is very own well right, can run the ball pretty well too.
Definitely. Okay, my last one is Romeo Doubs. So a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year bets, Christian Watson was the name that came up because there's just a lot of opportunity for Packers wide receivers with Devontae Adams going.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, he's had a pretty tough training camp. Rodgers hasn't had a lot of nice things to say about the receiving core more generally. But the one guy he keeps complimenting is Romeo Doubs, who is a 4th-round rookie receiver, caught a touchdown pass again this week. He also caught a touchdown pass in week 1 of the preseason. And Rodgers was quoted saying he's going to be expected to play based on his performance so far in camp, which is about as generous as Aaron Rodgers can be when talking about his teammates. And yeah, Romeo Doubs, again, just somebody to look out for as a real sleeper this year.
I mean, that's high praise coming from a man like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't get to see too much of that Packers game this past weekend, but I have been hearing stories about him just on the same note there, just kind of surprising everyone. And again, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but a certain character in Hard Knocks, just another late round draft pick, these guys with the chip on their shoulder, and just it comes down to that old line, hard work beats skill when skill doesn't work hard. And I mean, that's a true story across the NFL.
Yeah, and Jordan Love also looks a lot better this year as well, I'll mention, too. He got a decent amount of game time.
That's still a bit of a question mark draft choice for me.
Terrible draft pick. Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that. And then my last loser is Cliff Kingsbury. So Kyler Murray at the end of last season did have some kind of pretty vocal comments about Cliff Kingsbury's decision making on the offense sometimes, and Kingsbury just kind of said, you know what, screw it. You think you can do it better? Let's see it. And Kyler Murray ended up calling the plays for the last drive and a half, 2 drives there. I'm not sure what the exact timeline was when he took over, but you can see that, especially on that last drive, just decision making, the plays called, it just all seemed to work a little bit better than when Kingsbury was in there. And they even nearly came back from that game too. They were down, I believe it was 2 touchdowns at one point. By 10 points. They got it back. They scored the touchdown, but just couldn't. They ended up turning the ball over on downs on a 3rd and 25 in their own half of the field. So, again, will be interesting to see if that happens in the regular season. But it's a cool little story there for in the preseason.
Yeah, and I saw that Kyler was using the same headset that he took a selfie of playing COD with last year. So he brought his own gaming headset.
I saw that too. I think it was a Photoshop.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
No, I did see that. No, but
I keep getting got. First the Giants trainer not being 98 years old, and now this.
No, that happens to the best of us.
All right, you want to pivot right to over-unders?
Let's do it. I can lead this one off.
Yeah.
So my undescribed team, unnamed team here. This team was by no means a bad team last season. They were they had an 8-9 record, one of the best running backs in the NFL, with a potential top wide receiver and a very, very solid wide receiver too. Tight end is questionable coming into this season, but they brought in a new coach who was with the quarterback on his previous team. Defense could be the only thing really slowing them down, ranked 23rd in the league heading into this year. But they are a plus 280 to win their division. Their over-under is a 9.5 win total.
It's not the Colts because they didn't hire a new coach. Oh, man, I don't know. Who is it?
The Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, of course.
And,
yeah.
And one other thing I didn't throw in there, whenever Dalvin Cook goes down, they still have Alexander Madison there, who in the past for me has been a very good fantasy running back. But when he's in for at least 50% of snaps, he averages 90 yards, rushing and 40 receiving. So I think that this team is just about as set offensively as you can get. It's just really going to come down to how the defense really comes together. And we know that Kevin O'Donnell wants to see Kirk Cousins throw the ball a little more. So, like I said, I think it was last week or the week before, that's either going to go really well for them or really bad. But in the case it does go pretty well, they're a minus 134 to hit 10 wins this season.
True. Yeah, the Vikings are definitely a team we keep talking about over and over, and 9.5 is definitely an over for me as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that, and especially with Green Bay maybe not coming out as strong as they originally hoped. That they could move up into the division rankings.
They have a stretch of games I really like their chances to rack up some wins too. Week 3 versus Detroit, then versus New Orleans, versus Chicago, at Miami, bye week versus Arizona, at Washington.
Yeah, that's a pretty good stretch of games there. I think they could go 5-0. Is that 5 games there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 5-0, 4-1. Maybe even 3-2, but
yeah, and then they end at Detroit versus Indy versus Giants, at Green Bay, at Chicago. Not the toughest. You got Detroit, the Giants, and Chicago in there as well to end the season. So
and that's potential.
They also have the Jets the week before the Lions. So yeah, that schedule does not look too daunting at all.
That's 8-9 wins that you just read off right there, at least.
Yeah. Okay. My first team is also a team that brought in a new head coach, and they brought in a new quarterback this year. They have an ascending wide receiver. They have at least a top 3 running back in the league. They were a game from making the playoffs last year. They blew it. The defense is strong. The offensive line is good. And they're just a really solid team all around. And I think their coach is good. And their over-under is at 9.5 wins.
Is it the Broncos?
It's the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. But
yeah, so obviously bringing in Matt Ryan for Carson Wentz. Look, Carson Wentz wasn't terrible last year, but he did kind of fall apart down the stretch. Matt Ryan this team kind of just needs a game manager. Michael Pittman is probably somebody that could be a Pro Bowl level receiver this year. Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, obviously last year's top rusher.
Yeah.
And not a tough division as well. And I think them getting to 10-7, I would almost lock that in.
Yeah, I mean, when you see Carson Wentz come out in this preseason so far, he's kind of looked panicky. He's struggling in the pocket a little bit. But I really think the Colts, when you get it with Matt Ryan, you know what you're going to get week in and week out. With Carson Wentz, it can either be 300 plus yards and 2 touchdowns, or 100 yards and 2 or 3 interceptions. So I do think Matt Ryan is definitely an upgrade for that team specifically. And then you have the offensive line there, who's just for years now has been one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah, and they do have a fairly difficult schedule, to be honest. But I just think with how well coached they are under Frank Reich, that team's going to be able to get 10-7. I'm picking them to win that division. Now, the Jags are a team I think's going to be a lot better this year, but they still get to play Houston twice, the Jags twice, and even Tennessee twice, who looks like they could be a team that really starts to decline this year.
Yeah, again, the Titans, I don't really know what to expect with coming into this year. So I think the Colts could very well win that division.
Now, it is a -162, so the public is betting the over on the Colts. But again, -162, maybe I'm cheating a little bit. You're paying a little bit of juice there, but I think that's still pretty good value.
All right. And I'll go to my second unnamed team. I nearly just read the name out loud. So this team has a long history of relevancy, but are expected to have a losing record for the first time in a very long time this year.
I already know who it is.
You want to say it?
It's the Steelers.
Yeah, okay. I wish it wasn't that easy, but while I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, I think they'll be better than what everyone thinks they'll be. And yes, the conversation right now is Trubisky and Pickett, and a lot of people are saying it is going to be Trubisky. But I feel like there might be a common point in the season where Pickett becomes the guy there, because he has just how good he's looked through the preseason so far. But again, you still have a pretty solid defense right there with T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward. Hayward's on the Saints, isn't he?
Cam Hayward?
Yeah.
He is on the Steelers.
Okay, I got that right. You have 3 solid options at wide receiver with George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool. Not dealing with too many injuries coming into the season at all either. So that over-under win total is at 7.5. -122 for the over, -102 for the under, and a +880 to win the division. So I think I'm leaning towards the over, even though I don't think it's a great numbers bet. It's still just a little bit of free pocket money here and there.
Yeah. Now, the Steelers are listed on Sharp Analysis as the 4th toughest schedule in the league this year, and that's probably a result of that division just being really strong, having played the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns twice each. But yeah, I agree. The Steelers, I believe they've never went under 500 with Mike Tomlin.
15 years, Mike Tomlin never had a losing record.
So them getting to 8 wins, you're just... Whoever plays at quarterback isn't going to be worse than Ben Roethlisberger was last year, who's really bad.
Yeah, he was.
They're also a team that if they start the season well, they could be in the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes and go, we have a good defense, we have a great supporting cast, why aren't we going for this? So I like the Steelers over 7.5.
Yeah, and again, just with Tomlinson there, you can never count him out. So you know that Steelers team is gonna battle. They're gonna fight to the last minute. there's gonna find a way to stay in close games, which is all you can really do and all you can really ask for out of a team.
Okay, let's go with an under. So
All
people
right.
know that we're not just
Life's too
too
short to bet the
optimistic.
under, Henry.
Yeah. Okay, Jordan. What if I told you that there was a team with an incompetent head coach that had just lost its leading wide receiver, had a quarterback with as much playoff success as Kirk Cousins, and has a frankly pretty difficult schedule, and their over-under was 10.5? You'd probably want to take the under. Well, the Dallas Cowboys, who scored the most points in the league last year, no team that has scored the most points in the league has followed up the next season as a top 10 points total team, which is a stat I heard this week that kind of blew my mind. Doesn't make a ton of sense.
So the team is the Dallas Cowboys, sorry?
The team is the Dallas
Okay.
Cowboys, and the over-under's 10.5. I'm saying under at
Yeah.
minus 136. They lost Amari Cooper. They're going to ask CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz to take on a huge workload. Zeke is somebody that, based on carries and the history of that position, is going to start declining rapidly. There's already calls that Tony Pollard might be better. I think Mike McCarthy is not a strong head coach. That defense got a lot of turnovers last year. Trayvon Diggs looked like Deion Sanders for the first half of the season, and since has been getting cooked pretty frequently. And I think the Cowboys getting to 11 wins is, I would say it's almost a lock that they don't get to 11 wins.
And we said a couple of times now that 27-year-old age for running backs is really where it kind of starts to turn for the worse. And Zeke, it's kind of been looming towards that for a few years now. Granted, you still have Tony Pollard there, but I think with Michael Gallup is going to miss some time. Just as it's been a consistent just number 2 option for them. It's going to be tough for them coming into this year. But again, the Cowboys just, I don't know. I think last year you write that off. I think they're going to come into this year with a new fire under their belly. But we say that every year with the Cowboys, and we don't get a different result. So
also, it's like the Leafs of the NFL. Everyone's going to take the over, so you're always going to be able to get value. Cowboys over-under should be 9.5, but you can basically get 10.5 because everyone in Texas bets the over every summer.
No, I do like that bet. I do like that bet. And then I'm going to go on to my last team here. They have it's going to be a big opportunity this year for their young quarterback to stand out because it could very well be his last chance. They brought in a pretty good wide receiver, but their starting running back might be having some injury issues. He didn't practice today. I drafted their tight end on a hunch in fantasy last season, and he had a huge breakout year and could potentially take it another step up this season. A solid defense, ranked 13th in the league, and the head coach is heading into his second year, and this team barely snuck into the playoffs last year.
What's the over-under?
The over-under is 9.5, minus 140 for over, plus 111 for under.
Right, so you're definitely talking about the Eagles with the second-year head coach, quarterback with a lot to prove, with really good weapons. And, Eagles at 9.5, I think they're going to win that division, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and my only concern is, again, the money isn't great here, but just in terms of a team that's really going to take a big step up here, I think I've liked Jalen Hurts. I've said that on here many times, but he's looked good this preseason. His arms look better. That's what we were all concerned about. So hopefully it all comes together for the Eagles and for Jalen Hurts, because I think they'll be a really fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the Eagles over as well. And I don't know if we've done 3 each, but I want to throw some honorable mentions out there
For sure.
Lions over 6.5. I just think last year they probably could have gone to 6-7 wins, and they've improved a lot. They had a lot of young guys. They also got Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams in the draft. Yep. I could see them with Goff and DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown just in a pretty weak division being able to get to 7 wins. The Bills, I love at over 11.5. I don't think the Bills are getting beat 6 times in the regular season. I think they're going to get to 12 wins, even though their schedule does look a little bit tough. I think they're going to be favored in basically every game, though. They're favored away to the Super Bowl champs in week 1, so that's a pretty good indication of where Vegas, sees them. And Bears under. I feel like I harp on the Bears every week, but them getting to 7 wins seems basically impossible to me. Again, I just don't see them being favored in any games.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sorry, that was the Bears you were talking about there, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you there. And I don't want to say it's a guaranteed winless season for the Bears, but it's going to be pretty damn close. I mean, what we've seen from I'm drawing a blank of the quarterback's name right now.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin. What we've seen with Justin Fields hasn't been good, and just what we've seen through preseason too and through camp. But one of my honorable mention is going to be the Miami Dolphins under 8.5, and I just don't think Tua's it. The reports out of Canada have been mixed, and just what we've seen in preseason too. But I've just never been high on him, and yes, Tyreek Hill's a nice weapon, and Jalen Waddle, but at the end of the day, I don't know if this Dolphins team can muster up 9 wins. So that under at plus 110 is looking pretty good for me.
Yeah, and I was gonna save this for later, but looking at the Lions coaching staff, and it's all former players, right?
Yeah.
I think the Lions and the Dolphins are going to be interesting teams to compare this year because the Dolphins basically hired like a nerd as their head coach, and the Lions are all in on like manly men who played the game at the highest level.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what is more correct. I'm kind of just interested to see how those two teams stack up against one another.
It'd be interesting if we get a Hard Knocks like through the actual season, and we have to see what these guys do on a weekly basis, and maybe it's a touring thing. Maybe you go to a different city each week.
Well, they play week 7, the Lions and the Dolphins, and that's got to be the biggest difference in coaching staff sideline reactions in the league. Mike McDaniel this week, I think, was saying Tua has the most accurate catchable ball he's ever seen in person, which is the type of thing you say when, your quarterback doesn't have a strong arm.
Yeah.
You call the ball catchable.
I mean, Tyreek Hill was saying that throughout the summer as well, saying Tua's more accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have a lot of really good weapons, to be honest, but I could see them struggling in year 1.
Yeah, it's going to come down to how Tua does, and that whole team is going to rely on Tua.
They lost a first-round pick this week, too.
They did.
Pretty big deal.
Things go from bad from worse. All right, and just to wrap up the show here, we're going to talk about the second episode of Hard Knocks, the rise of Rodrigo. Malcolm Rodriguez, the 6th-round draft pick, I believe, for the Detroit Lions. He was kind of at the forefront of the episode. They did talk about some other players as well, but, I mean, right off the bat, he loves training camp because he loves to hit. That's about as most generic of a football answer as you can get.
Yeah. It's like the Seahawks offensive tackle they took in the first round, Trevor Penning, was saying he likes football because it's like you can legally assault a man. His was like, I guess, a more PG version of the same idea.
Yeah, but no, and I mean, you can tell he's one of those guys who just puts his head down and works. So there wasn't too much to him, I believe, and
he looks small.
He's small, but he's like a truck, though.
Yeah,
he's a sturdy frame, and I mean, the coaches just seem to love him. So I'm really kind of excited to see how he does in his first year. If he makes the team, if he starts.
Oh, he's making the team.
Oh, sorry, if he starts week 1, I mean, that'll be interesting to see. But again, 6th-round draft pick. That again, just another guy who just works hard at camp.
I think my favorite scene from the first 2 episodes is when the linebackers coach in the linebackers meeting is basically telling all the vets, like, I'm going to have to play him. I'm trying not to play a rookie over you, but I'm going to have to if he keeps outperforming you. seemed like one of the rare times the Lions coaching staff hasn't been trying to look or sound like a coach, and that it was actually a real, genuine, emotional moment that the show managed to capture.
Yeah.
Some of the other Lions assistant coaches, I felt like they're forced. That seemed real, where that's what it's like when a not highly touted rookie comes in and starts outperforming the vets. And I thought that was a really cool moment in that film.
I noticed that this episode as well. There's a lot more kind of fly on the wall action as opposed to sitting a guy down for an interview. But they did a similar thing in the running backs room with DeAndre Swift. That felt a little more put on.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of leaning over the table, looking at him in the eye. Like, you can be the best. You just got to put your mind to it.
And the linebackers, they're watching the tape, and he's shown, look at what he does. He goes up, he steps back, and then he hits the hole again. That's where the ball is. And I'm like, oh, I'm learning about football while playing linebackers. Like, the running back, exactly. He leans over the desk. They're not watching tape. He's just kind of telling him he's got the it factor.
Yeah.
So just not as enlightening, but...
I honestly feel like that's a conversation to do behind closed doors and not in front of the other running backs on the team.
He's like, the other running backs, you're very forgettable. But DeAndre.
But no, and then we got to see a lot about Amon-Ra St. Brown, the standout rookie from the Lions last season. Said just about every Lions rookie record that they had for receiving, and just all-time father.
Yeah.
Mr. Universe 2 times, still trains his kids. And he's all aboard the Kevin Durant slander like I am.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that. Kevin Durant's not the first guy to tear his Achilles by any means. And also, I feel like basketball and football require completely different, training. Kevin Durant wouldn't be as good if he was training like a Mr. Universe contestant, but...
he's also a 7-footer, which is just... you kind of get to draw the short end of the stick there, but again, just another guy, like a football guy, a football mentality, is just going to be just hard on his kids, It's always kind of cool to see these stories. I always like learning more about the players' history, their parents, and kind of where they came from. And it looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a dog who wants to be the best. And that moment where he kind of named off every wide receiver that was drafted before him and where they went to college was definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, he did the Paul Pierce, and I guess Tom Brady's done that as well. Tom Brady made a whole documentary about the 6 QBs taken before him. But yeah, Paul Pierce, I think when he went 11th, training every day, would shoot a 3, hit it, name the guy, name all 10 guys before him every day. And this seems like that's the same Brown was going for. Seems like a really serious dude. He's pretty intimidating to hear speak. And I love my dad. I have a great dad, but I was watching them all work out together, the brothers and the dad. I was a little envious. It's like, that'd be awesome if your dad knew more about working out than everyone and kind of just gave you that mentality from the age of 9.
Yeah, and the videos of him when they kind of first introduced him as well from the old Mr. Universe things. He's doing pretty well for himself. And I was watching some of those workouts. It's just me personally. They're not fully extending or anything. They're just trying to build for mass, which it works, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, it didn't look like what they teach you when you're going to Good Life, but yeah.
Maybe that's why we're at Good Life.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about DeAndre Swift as well, because he's somebody that people are expecting a breakout season from, because he's not only a talented runner, he's really good in the receiving game as well.
Yeah.
I got to say, though, I wasn't blown away by what I saw in this episode. Where St. Brown, he's killing dudes at practice. Yeah. He has a nice showing in the preseason game. Wide receiver 2 through the last 4 weeks of the regular season last year. Even playing with some pretty poor quarterback play. I think Tim Boyle started a couple of games. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's for sure the real deal. DeAndre Swift, I'm lukewarm.
Yeah, you can see that the running backs coach being pretty hard on him for not taking the ball inside. And
looked like it was pretty plugged up. But I guess I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so, but again, that's you and me. But No, and there was that scene towards the start of the episode where we first saw DeAndre Swift. Jamal Williams challenged him to that race with the high hurdle, picking up the ball, running back towards the coach. And DeAndre Swift got smoked by Jamal Williams. And he's talking trash beforehand. And, head coach, you got beaten by a mile. But for DeAndre Swift, it was a bit of a tough look.
Jamal Williams is basically putting together an audition tape for like The Masked Singer or like one of these reality shows that are based on personality, and you can make it as like a former C-list celebrity athlete.
Yeah, that speech in the first episode as well.
He's definitely, they're like, Jamal was not as vocal last off season. He's definitely hamming it up a little bit.
And then there's one more guy I wanted to talk about as well. David Blau.
Wow, I think, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. We got to see a story with his wife being the runner in the Olympics. But immediately after, when they were both sitting down for the interview, I'm not sure if you saw it, but he had the hover hand around his own wife, which is definitely a bit of a weirdo move, but he definitely seems like the Phillip Rivers type. You saw a lot of gollies, a lot of gosh darns, but just won't swear.
Yeah. Like a little mouse living in the big city as a quarterback. And it's funny, he comes into the game in their first preseason game against the Falcons, and he's doing like the Tom Brady thing on the sidelines in week 1 of preseason, which is like, let's go win this.
We don't want to see us take 3 knees. We need first downs to do that. Come on.
Yeah. I think he had a fumble, but he did throw a touchdown pass, I think, at the end. And he did like a big fist pump and.
No, that was Tim Boyle.
That was Tim Boyle. Well, it was a great fade route pass.
Yeah. No, that was actually a dart. I think it was Funchess who caught it.
Yes. And Dan Campbell just talking about like freestyling with the last name Funchess on the sideline after it happened.
Yeah.
Bunches of Funchess oats. It's such a weird thing for a head coach just to be mumbling to himself.
No, but that David Blau moment where we got all that build up. We see his wife in the crowd. He has this big passionate speech, and the first thing we see him do on the field is fumble the football, which, again, just another tough look for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Also, the Hutchinson family. They showed the Hutchinson family sitting in the stands, and they're like the Kardashians. They're like the most gorgeous family I've ever seen.
Yeah. And then he said Amon-Ra St. Brown's father pointed them out, saying, yeah, the Hutchinson family, they're up there.
Yeah, they're like clearly going to be some sort of like football royalty family. They have the whole look down.
Yeah, because they're saying his dad played at Michigan as well. He had a bunch of sack records there. So, I mean, maybe that's the thing that they have with Michigan University. But no, you're 100% right. Just a beautiful family. And I mean, and you kind of get reminded that for a lot of these guys, this is a huge opportunity, and like it's the world for them, because you can see the reaction and David Blau's wife and Aiden Hutchinson's mom, when she starts bawling her eyes out, that this means a lot to some of those guys. And it's always really cool to kind of see those moments. My son's out there playing against the Atlanta Falcons or the Indianapolis Colts, like. This is really cool for those guys.
I don't trust the Hutchinsons, though. They look shady.
All right. We're at about 40 minutes.
I had something else to say, but I forgot. Okay. Yeah. I have one more thing for Hard Knocks.
Yeah. But just give 2 seconds and then start.
Okay. And the last thing was, since we're getting a lot of Dan Campbell in this episode. Oh, that's what it was. I forgot what I was going to say. Now I remember. My favorite quote from this week, speaking of Aiden Hutchinson, was he's the type of player that lets you sleep easy at night, which was a very classic footballism, but I've never actually heard that quote before to describe a player. Basically that he's just like reliably motivated.
Yeah, like you're not going to have to do a wake-up call. You're not going to have to question whether he's going to show up. I mean, he seems like that guy. And Dan Campbell had a good conversation with him at another point as well, kind of saying like, just you're getting better every week. I mean, the team believes in him. He's a guy who could come out and have a monster rookie year, but I believe it was one of the assistant coaches saying that to Barry Sanders as well, which we got a cool little highlight reel of.
Yeah, that was cool. It seems as though a lot of former players stop by all the team's training camps, which...
There's probably media and interviews, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, like reminding the world they still exist, basically. But I was also going to ask you, I made like a little tiny game for you.
All right.
It's called Double Date, Do Acid, Go Out With Their Daughter.
Double date, do acid, go out with their daughter.
Yeah.
All right.
It's sort of like a love, marry, kill type game.
Yeah.
And your three options are Dan Campbell, John Harbaugh, and Pete Carroll.
Oh.
You can't do acid with Pete Carroll, certainly.
Yeah. I don't think I want to do it with Dan Campbell either. So I'm probably double dating Pete Carroll. What was the other one apart from doing acid?
Go out with their daughter.
Go out with their daughter. I feel like Harbaugh could have a hot daughter.
Yeah, and he seems like the nicest of the three.
I think so. The least threatening for sure.
But Pete Carroll kind of like creeps me out, and he doesn't seem that as threatening as Campbell's. Definitely last for any sort of going out with daughter.
100%. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing acid with Campbell, double dating with Carroll.
So you're going on like some horse and carriage date because he's like an 80-year-old man.
Yeah. I will probably go to, I don't even know what restaurant, the diner down the road and have a pop or two. But
yeah. Okay. Well, that was my question for you.
All right. And thank you for watching episode 4. I believe so. Episode 4 of the Practice Squad. You'll be able to find it in the title and the thumbnail. Don't worry. We want to thank the Bottom Line, Wayne Cowley, the owner of the Bottom Line.
Wayne.
The locker room at the Bottom Line. It's a beautiful studio. If you have a show that you want to kind of bring in here to upgrade your production, feel free to reach out to us. We're right next to the Hockey Hall of Fame, just down the street from Union Station. Those darn Leafs played over at Scotiabank Center across the road. But until next week, I'm Jordan Laroche. This is Henry Standage. We'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.